Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurlamanitanjena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadabhaktaya Namo Namaha. Yam Pravajantam Manupeta Kritam Rapaino Viraha Katara Ajuhava Putreti Tanmayataya Tarvo Binedus Tam Savabhutam Hridaya Munimanatosmi Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatam Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Bhaktya Vihina Parada Lakshai Kiptastakamari Tarangamadye Kripa Maitam Sharanam Prapanna Vrinde Namaste Charanadavindam Tave Vasmi Najivami Tvaya Vina Iti Vigyaya Radhe Tvam Nayanam Charanandike Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So, we're going to begin by offering our most humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of our beloved Gurus, unto Sri Guru Pada Padma Nitya Leela Bhavishta, Om Vishnu Pada Sto Talsat Sri Srimad Abhaya Charanaravindra Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada, and Sri Guru Pada Padma Nitya Leela Bhavishta, Om Vishnu Pada Sto Talsat Sri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, unto our exalted Rupanuga Varga, and all the assembled Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis. Okay, so we're going to continue hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, the chapter which describes Krishna stealing the garments of the unmarried gopis, the fulfillment of their desires after having performed Katyani Vrat for 1 month, and where we left off, the gopis were in the water, up to their necks in the cold month, Magh Shirsha, right? And then they heard a big laugh from the bank, and then they looked up into a tree and they saw Krishna and 4 of his dear friends, young boys, Dam, Sudam, Kinkani, can't remember the other name, and Krishna was taunting them that he found these clothes in the tree, right? And they said, there are clothes. And Krishna's arguing back and forth with them. They're demanding their clothes. Krishna's saying, okay, just come and get them. And of course, they can't. They don't have any clothes on. This bath that they are performing, the vrat is over, right? And so village girls, they have the custom. They can bathe without clothing if they're in a remote place and at the end of the yajna. And their clothes were just on the bank. Now they were very vulnerable. And there's a very delightful dialogue and also a very astonishing play of the emotions of prema. Because these gopis, some of them are nitya siddha. Many, many are sadhan siddha who have come here to perfect their devotion, to come to this highest stage of love of God, this relationship with Krishna in Vrindavan, in Shringar Ras, Madhurya Ras, topmost position. So rare. To go to Vrindavan, so rare. We have to understand this conception of these devotees in Vrindavan and their absolute dedication, selfless, loving, pure love, pure surrender to Krishna in every way. And if you want to get a really beautiful look at that, you look at this book, Bhakti Rasayan, where many of the verses that Sanatana Goswami took from at the end of Brihad Bhagavatamrita, he had about 26 verses that he had selected from the Srimad Bhagavatam that especially excited his moods of love. And there are verses which describe all the various rasas, not just Shringar Ras. There are descriptions of the devotees in Sakya Ras, in Vatsalya, and how deeply Sanatan was immersed in tasting these moods. Because one who's in Madhurya Ras, they can taste all the moods, right? All the moods reside within them in perfection. Just as Krishna, he's Rasik Shekhar, he is the receiver of service from unlimited devotees in unlimited moods. He even expands himself into so many different forms, from his Mathura and Dwarka form to the different forms he takes in the Vaikuntha planets, all of the avatars, the Purusha avatars, and in this way he tastes love in so many different ways. Why would he do that? I mean, he has Srimati Radhika. He doesn't need anything else, right? She's complete in every way. But the nature of Krishna, the absolute truth, complete in all ways, he greatly enjoys tasting all of these different rasas in their condensed and concentrated form. So Sakya Ras in a concentrated form with his cowherd boys. Vatsalya in its concentrated and perfect manifestation of Mother Jashoda, and to different degrees among her friends, right? And then the gopis, right? So now these gopis, they're beginning to realize something that up until now they had not. They had seen Krishna, some interaction with him, but they're quite young, and Krishna's young. But they had been desiring this from before they took birth here. How many millions of lifetimes of austerity did they perform to finally come to this place? And now they're in the water, and Krishna is teasing them and taunting them in a way that only a husband would taunt his wife. And he's asking something of them that only a husband could ask from a woman. You come out unclothed and take your clothes back from me. And the banter back and forth is so clever and so delightful. The gopis are in ecstasy. And they know that Krishna wants to see them in that way, and they just want to make Krishna happy. But there's one last obstacle, the obstacle of the sense of chastity and shyness. Chastity, they've given up in the sense they only want Krishna. There's no one else. They're not married, right? So they only want Krishna, but the shyness, right? And it's very hard. But now they've come to the point where, okay, we have to do this, and they're teasing each other. Remember the last thing we heard was that when the gopis saw Krishna's determination, they were filled with loving ecstasy. No matter what they said, no matter how they tried to convince him, Krishna twisted it, turned it, and is making them come out, right? And though they were embarrassed, they were overjoyed to receive such attention from Krishna. This is how Visvanath Cakravarty Thakur explains it. He was joking with them as if they were his wives or girlfriends. And the gopis' only desire was to achieve such a relationship with him. And at the same time, though, they were embarrassed to be seen naked by him. But still they could not help laughing at his joking words, and even began to joke among themselves. And the last paragraph we read was Visvanath Cakravarty Thakur revealing that dialogue. One gopi said to another, "Oh, lotus-eyed one, Krishna is calling you." The second gopi answered, "Oh, beautiful-faced one, you go first, and let us see if Krishna plays any tricks on you. Then we will go later." In this way they joked among themselves, but still they remained in the water without moving. So now we come to text 13. Okay, let me make sure it's right here. All right. Whoops. Okay. Evam bruvati govinde namana kshipta chaitasa akanta magna shito de vepamanas tadabruvam. Okay. As Sri Govinda spoke to the gopis in this way, His joking words completely captivated their minds. Submerged up to their necks in the cold water, they began to shiver. Thus they addressed him as follows. So now they're experiencing a interaction, a relationship that they had never experienced before. So this is causing them such joy, but now they're beginning to shiver. Why are they shivering? Is it because of the cold? They were certainly in the cold water. Visvanath Cakravarty Thakur says, in this way, Govinda continued to joke. The word Govinde, used here, means one who speaks in sweet words. Ga, such as the following. Krishna would say, oh, dark-eyed girls, if you don't come here, I will tie all these clothes to a branch of the tree and make a hammock and a pillow and lie down, since now I am quite sleepy due to having stayed up all night. The gopis respond, oh, Gopal, your cows, being greedy for grass, have gone into a mountain cave. You must go quickly to herd them back on the proper path. They're trying to get them to leave so they can get their clothes unobserved, right? Krishna, oh, Gopabala, cowherd girls, you should quickly leave here and go to Braj and do your household duties. You should not make your parents and elders suffer. So they're going back and forth. Oh, Krishna, attend to your cowherd boy duties. Oh, gopis, attend to your duties. All right, come and get your clothes quickly. Gopis, oh, dear Krishna, we will not go home for an entire month, for it is by the order of our parents and other elders that we are executing this vow of fasting, the Katyayani Vrat. Krishna responds, oh, my dear austere ladies, I too, by the strength of seeing you, have now developed a surprising mood of detachment from family life. He's saying, oh, I can't even think of my friends, my mother, father. All I can think of is you. Right? In this indirect way. I wish to stay here for a month and execute the vow of dwelling in the clouds. These using the double entendre of the Sanskrit language, he gives reference to that. If you are merciful to me, I will come down from the tree and observe the vow of fasting in the water along with you. Right? You've attracted me so much now. I want to be there with you. And so he says the gopis were completely captivated by Krishna's joking words. But out of shyness, they submerged themselves in the water up to their necks. Trembling from the cold, and also from their anxiety, joy, and eagerness, the gopis addressed Krishna as follows. So anxiety, joy, eagerness, these are all, sanchari moods that are weaving in and out of their hearts and causing this external shivering, right? Which is like a sattvika bhav. So, manayambo kritastam tu nanda gopa sutam priyam janimonga vraja shlagyam dehiva sanksivepita. The gopis said, dear Krishna, don't be unfair. We know that you are the respectable son of Nanda and that you are honored by everyone in Braj. You are also dear to us. Please give us back our clothes. We are shivering in the cold water. So now, what are they doing? They're appealing to his higher nature, his good qualities. He's respectable, dharmic. Why are you acting like this? They're trying to persuade him like this. And Visvanath Cakravarty Thakur will give more explanation. In this verse, the gopis try to satisfy Krishna by using one of the 4 diplomatic principles known as sama, pacification. The gopis said, oh, you were born in a cultured family, so you should not do unworthy activities. Right? So pacification means, right, to, if there's any conflict or difference in opinion, right, to smooth that out in a very gentle way, just appeal to his higher nature, right? So that you're not criticizing him, you're just encouraging him to, you know, uphold his reputation, so to speak, you know. Krishna, well, so now they're trying to speak as if they respect him, right? But he says, it's obvious that you do not respect me, for you are not afraid of calling me bad names. Gopis respond, we don't know any other places of Braj, but we know you, the son of King Nanda, right? Furthermore, you are praised and loved by all the Brajbasis. So trying to reinforce that, right? Krishna, oh foolish women, if I am a king's son, then what wrong can I do? If you say the king's son should not do any wrong actions, then I say, if I am doing wrong, how can I be praised and loved by everyone in Braj? It is not possible to praise or love a wrongdoer. So he turns their compliment back on them. Oh, you're calling me a dharmic son of the king, that I'm praised and respected by all. So why at the same time you're accusing me of doing something wrong? Right? How can I do something wrong if I am what you say? And they say, true, we simple women are ignorant of how to speak. Please forgive us, and therefore, and give us our clothing. We are shivering with the cold. With these words, the Brajakumaris invoke Krishna's mercy. Okay, we may have misspoke, but still, you have all these great qualities. Show us some mercy. We're so cold. Trying to gently, appeal to his compassionate nature. Because Krishna is, right? Karunamayi. He's very merciful. Then text 15, Shama Sundarate Dasya Karavangsa Tavoditam Dehiva Sanksidharmagya Nacherage Bhuvamahe. O Shama Sundar, we are your maidservants, and we must do whatever you say. But give us back our clothing. You know what the religious principles are, and if you don't give us our clothes, we will have to tell the king, please. So the religious principles apply not only to his behavior, but why is he putting them, chaste innocent girls, in such an adharmic condition, right? So you know the religious principles, and then at the end of it, after a humble appeal, a threat, a not really veiled threat. We'll have to tell the king. So is that Kamsa? Is it Nanda Maharaj? It could be either of those kings, right? So Visvanath Cakravarty Thakur says, in this verse, the gopis continue their attempts to pacify Sama, that Sama means to pacify, Krishna, taking the word sham with a dental S as syam in Chitsuk's reading of the word. He was a commentator on Bhagavatam, actually an Advaitin commentator, but expert in grammar, right? With this meaning, the gopis said, we being your maidservants will carry out your word. The implication is that, quote, it is only fitting for us to have an attitude of service to you, who are the king. The gopis continued, moreover, because you are very beautiful, Sundara, we have to become your servants. And thus, under the guise of being servants, we will offer our very selves to you. Then, the gopis employ the diplomatic principle known as bedha, the process of dividing by using rough language to weaken Krishna, right? Weaken his resolve. Divide, right? Separate him from his convictions and point of view even, right? Conception, confidence. The gopis said, O knower of religious principles, they called him dharmagya, you will be acting irreligiously if you steal the wealth of chastity from women and see them naked. Seeing that it was futile to instill fear of irreligion, adharma, in Krishna, The gopis then resorted to threats to instill fear. If you do not give us our clothing, we will complain to the king. And in parentheses it says either Nanda or Kamsa. So they kept trying sama, but then seeing Krishna's not afraid of our dharma, of course he's not. He even told Arjuna, right? Sarva dharmam parityagya, mamekam sharanam vraja. Right? Arjuna, don't worry about killing your relatives, right? Destroying the society, all the fears that Arjuna had prior to the battle. Correct from the perspective of worldly dharma, Krishna said, I don't care for any of that. I have a plan, I want it fulfilled, you are my instrument. Krishna's view, Krishna's desire is real dharma. Remember in the sixth canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the third chapter, where Yamaraj is instructing his servants after their confusion of being turned away from punishing Ajamil, he said, you were acting according to ordinary dharma, but there's something higher here. And this is because he chanted the holy name. This exceeds all worldly dharma. And ultimately, dharma is what? There's worldly dharma, rules and regulations for us on this planet. But ultimately, dharma hi sakshat bhagavat pranitam. Dharma is whatever Krishna wants, whatever the Lord desires. Right? That is dharma. And so, he's not affected by their appeals because actually he wants the highest dharma. He wants unrestricted, complete surrender and love from the gopis with no worldly consideration. There's no motive of worldly lust here. He doesn't care about that. He cares about a heart completely cleansed of all obstacle for giving Krishna pleasure. No obstacle. Even their shyness and sense of chastity has to be abandoned, which they want to abandon. They just want to make Krishna happy. But they're going through this pastime. This is arranged by Yogamaya to teach us this incredible lesson. How many obstacles do we have every day? Most are the only things we're mostly seeing because we're on a lower level. It's just the obstacle of our separate interest, our anyabhilash, right? But here we're seeing such subtle obstacle. Because even in their chastity and their shyness, these are qualities that also please Krishna greatly. But in this instance, even they have to be abandoned. Right? So now they're threatening him. Okay, hope maybe that'll work. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Bhavatyo Yarime Dasyo Mayuktam Vakadishchata Atra Gatyat Savang Sangsi Pratichata Shuti Smita No Chennaham Padasyekim Kruto Raja Kadishyati. It says Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. Shukadev Goswami is using this title. He weaves this in quite often in these confidential pastimes so that readers, without the deep qualification to understand these pastimes in the highest way, will not forget that this is God himself. Don't think of this as worldly in any way. Right? Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, said, if you girls are actually my maidservants, and if you will really do what I say, then come here with your innocent smiles and let each girl pick out her clothes. If you don't do what I say, I won't give them back to you. And even if the king becomes angry, what can he do? Visvanath Cakravarty Thakur says, after being defeated by their own words, the gopis stood speechless. Oftentimes, the gopis can defeat Krishna in word battles, right? But these are less experienced gopis, and they're in a situation they never encountered, And now Krishna is defeating them in this debate. They have no other recourse. Everything that they have said, every appeal, every objection, he's overcome. Now they have nothing else to say. Krishna then spoke. We will now test the truthfulness of your words. If you really are my servants, then you will do whatever I say. Please come forward with a smile and take your clothes. Not just coming forward reluctantly, come forward with a smile. Be happy, right? If you are not true to your words and fail this test of dharma, then I will not return your clothes. What kind of dharma, right? Param dharma, right? The ultimate dharma, Sanatan dharma, Jaiva dharma, Gopi dharma. It's really Gopi dharma, right? Shuchi smita means a smile expressing conjugal love, Shuchi. Thus, the gopis revealed their true inner feelings toward Krishna with their smiles full of conjugal affection. So all this is going on, and now they're just smiling happily, but still impeded by that shyness. And Krishna continued, as I am stronger, you should use sama instead of bedha. In other words, always appeal to my good qualities. Don't try to divide or threaten or scare me. If you make the king angry, what can you accomplish? I'm independent. I'm above all, right? None of these threats have any meaning. So, tato jalashayat sarva darika shitavepita panibhyam yonim achadya proteru shita karshita. Then, shivering from the painful cold, all the young girls rose up out of the water, covering their pubic hair with their hands. So now they're coming out. Visvanath Cakravarty Thakur says, the gopis talked among themselves. O Sakis, we have been defeated by our own words. Now, if we delay any longer, some other man may come along, and then we will be sunk in an ocean of shame. Our desire to touch Krishna's body has become even stronger and cannot be put to death even by drowning in the water. Therefore, it seems our fate has been written on our foreheads, and we can do nothing to change it. Therefore, yielding to his demands, we must put aside our embarrassment and send our obstinacy to hell and close our eyes. In that darkness, we will cover our bodies and rise up from the water. Thus, assuring each other that there was no alternative, the gopis rose up out of the water to meet Krishna. So now they're realizing, hey, this is what we asked for. Right? And now they're trying to rationalize it, to give themselves some excuse. We have no alternative because the day is progressing. It's getting later. What if some other man comes along? Then it'll be so much worse for us. Right now, it's only our beloved Krishna. And we wanted to touch him. We wanted him to touch us. He's calling us. He'll give us our clothes by his own hand. Right? So this desire has become stronger and stronger. We perform this vow all month long. And then Krishna, this whole pastime, is to increase that desire even more. They're separated by their shyness. They're meeting together, but they're separated. And what's separating them is their shyness. So now the desire to meet has become so strong. This is what dialogue in prem does, especially with the gopis. Sometimes, they both want to meet, but sometimes Krishna will show his eagerness, and then the gopis will chastise him or criticize him or prevent some obstacle, which only increases desire even more. And then he does something extraordinary to overcome that obstacle, and then they become so happy, and the meeting becomes so much more enjoyable. Or as in the beginning of the Rasa Leela, they go back and forth, teasing each other. One being in man and not wanting to meet, then being overcome by Krishna's cleverness, then Krishna disappearing. I mean, so many different stages that we have heard about, right? So now this is what's happening to them. Their prema now has increased to such an extent. Their desire to be with Krishna is so strong that even they saying death itself can't overcome this. Our fate is written on our foreheads. We have to yield to his demands. Right? He just wants to be with us. We want to be with him. This is how it's played out. We have to put aside our embarrassment. Cast away our obstinacy, right? What is it useful for? Nothing. Therefore, it should go to hell, our stubbornness. So we close our eyes. And this way we'll be in darkness and we won't be really naked. Remember when Krishna told the cowherd boys to close their eyes when they were surrounded by fire, and he wanted to swallow the fire, but he didn't want them to see it because he was afraid that if they saw that, they would be astonished and then complain to Mother Jashoda and Nanda Maharaj, who would be, they complained so much when he ate dirt. How would they react if he ate fire? And he didn't want to cause them distress. And so when he gave them the order, they thought, why is he saying this? Oh, perhaps he has a special mantra that can only be chanted when you are alone. And if we close our eyes, then in a sense, he's alone. So they're saying if we close our eyes, then it's, at least for us, it's darkness, right? And in a sense, we won't be naked, or we won't be shamed by it. So the different ideas here. So they had no alternative. They convinced each other, yes, we have to do it. They console each other. They reinforce each other. Yes, it's the only course of action. So they rise out of the water. Okay. So I've been ending these classes after a little bit after a half hour. And I'm going to continue to do this for a while to make them a little bit more accessible. So, and to increase the tension, right? Now they're coming out of the water. What's going to happen now? There's still more steps to take. It's not complete yet. Remember, they're bending over. Their long hair is covering their body, covering their breasts, and their hands are covering their private parts, and they're hunched over in embarrassment still, but they're coming out of the water. So, we'll find out tomorrow what happens next. What incredible dialogue, and what about the movements of prema? How will they increase even more and more? Can we understand this? No. This is beyond our adhikar in one sense, but it's not beyond our adhikar to hear with respect, humility, with the proper perspective, right? Having heard carefully that this is completely transcendental, nothing of the mundane like we have taste for, and it's being carefully given to us through the agency of our Guru Varga, in this case Visvanath Cakravarty Thakur. Srila Prabhupada also talks about it in Krishna book, right? So it's there for us to hear and become purified, but carefully hearing and trying to understand the nuance, the subtlety, and the exalted nature of this pastime. So with full respect to all the participants and with humble prayer to be allowed that by hearing this, our anarthas and the obstacles in our heart, the gopis have no real obstacle. That, or if they do, in this case what's being shown, the most subtle of all things is now going to be cast off. We have so many gross obstacles, and we're praying that these deeper emotions come into our heart and our obstacles get lifted so that we can become eligible. First come into Nishta, then to be able to taste hearing these and chanting about these, some taste develop, some ability to speak these in a pure way, Shuddhanam, and then deepening attachment for Krishna, for his devotees, for this Leela, right? And then an awakening of real spiritual emotion, real pure sadhan on that level above. So tomorrow we'll continue. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Srila Gurudev, all glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande Haribol.